All right, and hello everyone. It's Matt again. On one of my on the GGD video, I had at Plonka13. Do you have a video on how to make beats that aren't in the Groove Player? And just further clarification, honestly, brother, from scratch, I can't figure it out. It's not the easy drag and drop like Superior Drummer, etc. I'm just like, huh. And I can agree. Sometimes it's frustrating jumping from different uh, manufacturer of VSTs and the different ways I have it set up for you to use it. So let's jump into it. Starting off, all I did was open up a single session of or instance of GGD. It's not fancy like the rest of the videos. I just redid my setup, and I'm not using GGD anymore. Just because I found one that sounds good to me, sounds better off the bat, so I can be lazy and not have to do all the setup. But anyways, so if we're going from scratch, there's two ways just to create a MIDI item. First, you can go up here to Insert, and then New MIDI Item. Oop, I'll get rid of that. I don't know why I did that. And there we have our MIDI item. From there, you can just double click in it. And now we can start editing. Another way, a quicker way in my opinion, to create a MIDI item is just on PC, hold down Control, and then you'll see your cursor turns to a pencil. Now you just take that pencil at a grid marker wherever you want to start, left click and drag to however long you want that MIDI item. And then release, and there's your MIDI item. Again, we can go right back in. And now we're here to editing. Now, if you guys remember from the last video, it was important for the setup on whatever drum VST you're using. So let's double check. Here, we're going to go to, actually, I guess you should up here. Go to here, right channel. We'll just turn that to Omni, so any of the triggers related to this channel will trigger it. Now let's go to settings and load preset. Currently the preset, this is all set up for Invasion. Again, we're going to go to GM, which stands for General MIDI. I always like keeping things General MIDI just because any of the MIDI packs you get or sharing MIDI files with your friends who might not have as much or as advanced drum VSTs as you, it keeps it all like a standard language so everyone can communicate with each other. All right, so we got it set to General MIDI, and we made sure it was Omni. Now the cool thing about the Reaper MIDI editor here is there's a whole bunch. So we'll just kind of go over it real quick. Real quick. Up over here is just different layouts for how you want this to look. Do you want it to look like a keyboard? So if you're typing in some keys, some synths, maybe this helps you out if you don't have a actual MIDI keyboard. Here's just blocks to kind of keep it from being cluttered up. This one, but I don't ever use this one because I don't know how to use it. And then standard music notation. But I always use this one because I like having this area right here to edit in. Now these ones are literally just the shape. These are just the shape of your MIDI item. So let's say we go and edit. Let's add one. Boom. We have a MIDI item. Now, if you have that one highlighted, actually, I don't think I have that highlighted, but you just click this and it'll just change the shape. I will say that I don't fully understand on these ones how you stretch it out, because whenever I try to move it, it actually moves it. First, the rectangle one where you come here and you see you can extend it. So if you're doing like piano notes, violin strings, like you can get notes that hold out longer or shorter than the other ones to like do these cool chord formations. But when you have it on the different styles like this, I don't know. So this one might be more for just like drum MIDI. Again, maybe just easier, smaller to keep it unclustered. But me personally, I always keep it here. I like having the ability to stretch out a MIDI item as long as I want, as well as here to adjust the velocity. Granted, you can also adjust the velocity of selected MIDI items down here as well. Over here, don't really use much of those. Your normal grid and snap. Down here, this is just changing like what you're going to be viewing in this part of the MIDI editor. Or you're going to look at velocity, pitch, stuff like that. So you can change it. For doing drums, it just stays velocity. The next important thing to know is down here is your grid, changing your grid squares as well, which is I always forget to look over, is changing it between is it straight, triplet, dotted, or swing kind of feel for your drum beats. That's going to be important because especially me, where I'm not very knowledgeable on, I just, you can just throw a beat down, you have a beat in your head, but you don't know how to exactly annotate it. Don't forget about this down here. That's big. I guess alternatively here, I never use this one. I don't know why, but I never use this one, but you can change each MIDI item individually down here. But I leave it to grid, and then I just change it right here. So if we're on straight, right, 16th straight right now, you can see it changed the grid to compensate for a 16th triplet. All right, so that's the basic layout of the Reaper MIDI editor. What I like keeping it like this for the drum editing is because remember, we just set the drum VST to general MIDI. So if we come to File, Load CC Names, Load CC Note Names, bam. And so what this is doing is it's giving you a list of the general MIDI, what triggers what MIDI just right off the bat. So here. Now, just explanation, it completely depends on what VST you have and what settings it has for general MIDI. Because you have like tambourine. That's not a tambourine, It's just it gives you a general idea where your stuff is, so you're not just guessing. Here, so we'll make it look like we did earlier. So you're not just like, which one's the bass drum, And if you want, I can make a video on how to do different themes, get different note names and stuff from the Reaper site as well. If you guys would like, let me know. All right, now to the part of the video that Plonka wants. So creating a beat from nothing. So we got our VST set up. We got it set to what settings we need. We got our metronome set or tempo set. Then we're going to turn on a metronome. And now you simply, if you want to start with bass, I always start with the bass drum when making a beat. Right? Let's copy that over. There we go. Now we'll add our little snare. And we'll add a cymbal. There you go. So now you can just add that in. Then the next important thing is obviously velocities. If you guys use the drag and drop or you use some of the pre-purchased MIDI packs, a lot of times I've seen them where they have the artist make them and the artist puts the velocities close to how he plays them already. If you look here, if you go straight to the MIDI editor and you just make your own beat, everything's going to be maxed out in velocity, which doesn't sound very good because you're not hitting everything that hard all the time, and it sounds fake as hell. So if you remember, if you leave down here as velocity, we can edit the velocity down here. Highlight what you want to adjust, so symbols. So this is just what I think sounds good. Sounds good for what sounds good is different for everyone. So just take this with a grain of salt. But I like to put my symbols right about here in the editor. Let's see. There we go. Because you're still hitting them hard, but you're not hitting them super hard. I'm going to press H on my keyboard. This will bring up the humanize. And I think I usually do about a 4 to 5% velocity change. And you can't see it much, but you'll just see like very small differences to try to make it sound a little bit more realistic. Then for the snare drum, we'll do this one first, just these three. These are very close, just around where the cymbals are. Again, I press H, okay, slightly randomizing them. Now here's something cool. When you have notes that are back to back. So the first note, that's going to be pretty close to how high we have these ones. But the second note, depending if it's a one hand or two hand, if it's a one hand, like, it's probably going to be a little bit less. Two hands would be pretty close, but I always like if there's two back to back, just make it ever so slightly less, smaller velocity. And then the bass drum. The bass drum usually is so pegged out. So here's this first like darker line right here. I go just below that, between this line and that line, and then vary it a little bit. And there you go. That's a quick 101 crash course on how to create your own beats using GGD in Reaper. Thank you very much.